All right. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the CV Update. After a 1 week break, we are now at week 6 of the NFL season. And this Sunday, the New England Patriots will welcome in the Dallas Cowboys to Gillette Stadium, and kickoff is scheduled for 4:25 p.m. EST. The Patriots come into this game with the 2-3 record after a 25-22 victory over the Houston Texans last Sunday, while the Cowboys come into this game with a 4-1 record, 4-1 record, and are coming off of a 44-20 victory over the New York Giants last Sunday. And joining me for today's coverage as we preview the Cowboys game and also kind of discuss our thoughts on the Texans game last week is Anirban Chakraborty. Anirban, how are you doing?
Doing well, man. Thanks for having me again.
Yep. No, it's good to have you back on, especially after last week. We went on the hiatus and I just had to switch the view. But yeah, let's just talk about the Texans win quickly. I don't know. It wasn't really like a convincing win. It was 25-22. The Texans are one of the worst teams in the league. And the Patriots really struggled against this Texans team. They were down 22-9, and they ended up scoring the final 16 points of the game to win this game. And it came down to Nick Folk, who kicked the game-winning field goal from 21 yards with 15 seconds remaining. But all in all, it was a very kind of like not a very convincing win. And let's just be honest. I mean, the two teams the Patriots have beaten so far are the New York Jets and the Houston Texans. And both of those teams, we argue, are probably among the worst in the league. So they've lost to Miami, New Orleans, and Tampa. And I would say that those three games were all at home. So they are 0-3 at Gillette Stadium and 2-0 on the road. So I don't know, like, I'm not really feeling great about this so far. Like, what is your takeaway now, like 5 games into the season? Because for me, it's just not great.
I mean, win's a win for sure. But again, we were playing a Houston Texans team that has regularly been pretty poor this season. So when you look at it in that context, it's almost like, I don't want to say it's like an expectation, because you should never inherently expect to like win a game, but it does mean that the excitement's definitely a lot less, particularly given the fact that we really had to like turn things around in the second half. Though that being said, I think that that did display like good maturity. And I think our offense in particular definitely like heated up a little more in the second half. And I think we continued seeing good partnerships on the offense, as well as a better offensive line, for example, that performed. So all in all, a few positives.
Was that really the offensive line, or is that just the Texans pass rush just being horrible? Like, I just want to like actually think about that, right? Because the Patriots offensive line was decimated. They were missing 4 starters, and the Texans really weren't able to pressure Mac Jones at all. So is that more an indictment on how bad the Texans are as a team, or how well the line actually is? Because I feel I'm starting to lean
probably more of the latter. I'd say probably more on the Texans, because we had probably a season low. We only had 4 QB hits on Mac Jones. There was 1 sack, but definitely like he had way more time on the ball. And when you look at a lot of the successful passes he made, they were just in the shotgun or play action, and he had multiple seconds to get a pass off without even remotely being in trouble of getting hit. So,
yeah.
In that context, like we were definitely taking advantage of a favorable matchup at an extreme, to be honest. And it was one of those days where maybe on defense, like at least a few of their points could be down to some very big plays. For example, their 67-yard touchdown, which Devin McCourty was later very self-critical about. And but again, at the end of the day, I think we can view this as something that we kind of got away with it here. We kind of got away with the result, despite, especially for like the first half, looking like we were actually going to lose pretty badly. And it's a big narrative change, right? Like at the last second win against the Texans, like you can imagine losing to the Texans right after such a performance against the Buccaneers would really be a big morale damage. But this kind of keeps their hopes alive for still getting something out of the season.
Yeah, I mean, if they're 1-4, that's a very different story than being 2-3, which is still not good, but at least it's better than being 1-4. But I don't know, like, I mean, you mentioned that 67-yard touchdown. That was to Chris Moore, I'm pretty confident, like the wide receiver. He was just added to the roster like that week, and he had 5 catches for 109 yards and a touchdown. And Davis Mills, like, I mean, a lot of people have been very critical on Davis Mills so far, if you've been listening to the analysis so far. And 21 of 29, 312 yards, 3 touchdowns. He looked like a stud. He looked
He did.
very,
He really
very
did.
good. He like,
He really did.
I was
He looked
impressed
better
by
than
him.
Tom Brady looked against us.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he threw 3 touchdowns. Brady didn't even throw a touchdown against the Patriots in week 4. And Mac Jones, 23 of 30, 231 yards. He did throw that touchdown to Hunter Henry, which tied it. Threw 1 interception, and probably should have thrown a couple more interceptions, but they were, unfortunately for him, not picked off. And I don't know, Damian Harris, I'm sorry, but another fumble, 14 carries for 58 yards. He did have a touchdown, but he lost another fumble, and this one actually cost them a touchdown because he fumbled in the red zone. And actually, the refs initially not sure if that was a touchdown, but he actually fumbled before he crossed the plane. That is just inexcusable at this point. This is the second time he's fumbled. And had they lost this game, that fumble would have been magnified to the extent that it was week 1. That is inexcusable. I can't stress this enough. And it's not just Harris. Ramondre Stevenson, of course, had that fumble in week 1. JJ Taylor had a fumble in week 4 against the Buccaneers. Every week they seem to have someone who's sort of fumbling and not having ball security. That is not acceptable. And I don't know what to say. If that's a coaching issue, I'm not sure if it's a confidence issue. I don't know how you have to fix that up. But that is one of the easiest things you can fix up, because turning the ball over, you can't do that. You cannot do that in the National Football League consistently. Of course, it'll happen from time to time. But if you consistently turn the ball over, you're going to lose games. And I'd say right now the Patriots, the record they are is the record they deserve, 2-3. If I tell you that every game, essentially, the Patriots have either had multiple turnovers, which they have essentially, I think, right? Week 1 they had 2 fumbles. Week 2 against the Jets. Okay, I guess the Jets won. Okay, fine. Against the Jets, they were actually pretty good, but that's the Jets. And then week 3 against New Orleans, Mac Jones threw 3 interceptions, so that's more than 2. Week 4 against Tampa, fumble and an interception by Jones. And this week, right, interception and a fumble. If you have 2 turnovers every game, you deserve to be 2-3. You probably deserve to be 1-4. So, but fortunately, they were able to get by playing 2 of the worst teams in the league in their first 5 games. But against Dallas, you can't get away with that. We're going to get into Dallas in a little bit, but I don't know. I want to be optimistic. I was happy that they were able to win the game, but I came away and I was this is really going to be a struggle of the season at this point. I was excited about the start of the season, but if every game is going to be this type of gritty type of fought win against bad teams, that's just not something we want to see consistently, right? We want to see sort of, I don't know, maybe is it too much to go back and expect for kind of I don't know, there has to be some bridge between Tom Brady and there has to be some sort of middle ground between Tom Brady and non-Tom Brady quarterback teams for the Patriots, right? Is that too much to ask?
We do have to set our expectations, and I think part of the malaise or whatever can come from expecting, I think, obviously this is not the team that we've had for a decade, not even a team we had 3 years ago, right? It's a completely different offense, in some ways a pretty new defense as well. So I think we're still figuring out who this team actually is. There's no guarantee. I think most people did say from the beginning playoffs would be unlikely, but I think we're figuring out now what this team is, right? If you told us at the beginning of the season that Hunter Henry would be emerging as the primary tight end instead of Johnny Smith, I don't think. I think many people predicted Johnny Smith would be the emerging speedster on a big contract who'd be catching balls for us. And meanwhile, the opposites happened, right?
Hunter Henry was also they're paying him pretty good money too. So it's not
they're paying good money, but Johnny Smith, at least my understanding was going to the season, Johnny Smith was expected to be the number 1 tight end.
Really? I guess I don't know if
at the very least, you could say you wouldn't have expected what's happening right now, which is it's Hunter Henry has been the dominant tight end. And he's looking to grow. Our tight end started a little quiet, and especially we saw the touchdown he had was in my opinion, it's a very classic tight end touchdown. You pass it to this huge guy right at the end of the end zone, catches it, uses his body to just go in.
And that's
exactly the type of touchdown.
That tied the game.
That's what you want your tight end to be doing, right? So, and I'm very happy about that, because going to the, I wasn't sure about Hunter Henry. I liked him a lot because on the Chargers when he was on the Chargers, that's exactly the role he had in the end zone. He got red zone targeted a lot, precisely in that same manner. That's why he'd usually end up getting a touchdown. Even if he only had 30, 40 yards, he was a great red zone threat. And that's exactly what he's done for us here. But that's the thing. We're still figuring that out. We're still trying to learn who this team is. So,
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
I see every game as a data point for us to think about what we're doing well. And again, I'm really interested in the partnerships that are emerging. Like we've seen at this point, we've seen how that works. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm okay to. I think in terms of the defense, this was definitely more of an anomaly. Like I think when you go back to Davis Mills, like over 300 yards, a lot of his successful passes were kind of like 10-yard, 8-yard gains along the corners, like where they just our cornerbacks just couldn't really deal with it. And I think I think that's just kind of an example of variance, right? Like all said and done, no, I don't think we haven't been an explosive defense, but we've been a pretty darn competent one, at least in the secondary.
I don't know about that, right? Like I'm just starting to like I know like statistically the defense is fine, but if you really look at each of the games, like when the defense has needed to get a stop, I mean, I guess against Houston they did their job, but against New Orleans, against Miami, against Tampa, when they needed a stop, they couldn't get it, and
They got,
that
I
to
mean,
me matters.
they got a few stops against Tampa that were pretty crucial.
I'm talking about it at the end, right? Like I mean, when it was 17-16,
they gave a field goal, yeah.
Yeah, but like I mean you could have had a punt. You had Brady at 3rd and 6, and you got a 7-yard run on you. 44-year-old Tom Brady like ran 7 yards on 3rd and 6. That is inexcusable to me too.
That's there.
Miami.
That's there. But like if you said at the beginning of the game, would you view it as a success if Tom Brady didn't throw for a passing touchdown that day?
See, no, but okay.
I mean, I feel like in that, like I know we didn't get. I kind of wish it's a shame that we couldn't do last week because I actually had a lot I wanted to say about that game. But
why don't we talk about that game a little bit too? Like I mean, because this is anyways like we don't really have a lot to talk about for the Texans game anyway. So like for the Buccaneers game, like what were your like overall thoughts from that game? Because like the first
Buccaneers game, I was quite pleased. I was quite pleased. I was one of the people. I know on this podcast I was the most optimistic. I think everyone else predicted that it would be a game lost by at least maybe 2 touchdowns or more. I think you might have been an exception to that.
I think I had 31-20.
You might have been an exception to that, but I know Rohan and Robbie both were predicting like blowouts, right? And I knew I said for like it would be a close game. I did say they'd win, but we almost did. It was I actually really enjoyed it. I think one thing we were watching is that we know what the offensive line has been for us this season, right? I don't really see much point in rehashing the wheel that, our offensive line doesn't do much. Like we know that there's no point in, that's just what it is and you have to live with it. But what I really enjoyed seeing was Mac Jones really maturing during the game, right? And one thing, I remember the commentators kept pointing this out because it was just so impressive to them that the Buccaneers actually stopped blitzing partway through the game precisely because each time they did, Mac Jones would just beat it, got out of the pocket, had a really fast release time and get a completion. That's what he did. He didn't get sacked or tormented, so they had to end up respecting him, and they couldn't do that play anymore because it was just way too easy for him to find a play in the middle.
Richard Sherman, which was
he did, and that's. I mean, they took advantage of those matchups, right? Like we saw like Richard Sherman had a crucial PI on N'Keal Harry, got us a first down. We saw time and time again, pretty much on every passing play because Jacoby Myers was involved in maybe 90% of the snap counts. Pretty much every single play, same thing. Come in from the corner, cut in through the middle, shallow passing option, nothing's going on, easy 7 yards. He did that time and time again, or putting on a move against Richard Sherman, who of course was literally, just a very. He was literally. I don't know if he even trained maybe one time this week before the game or with the Buccaneers. I don't know.
I mean, he's not the player he obviously was, right? That's why he was like a free agent.
Well, yeah, but and my point is like that's good. We wanted him to take advantage of that matchup, right? That shows a good maturity, and at least a good play calling, right? You want to pick out the weakest link because why wouldn't you? It's a strategic advantage. I was really happy with that. I mean, obviously our run game just wasn't. I mean, it didn't work at all. It literally did not. So I enjoyed seeing Mac Jones like maturing in that regard. I liked seeing him develop that partner with Jacoby Myers and as well as like his ability kind of to like move out of the pocket, make plays in motion. That was really important. So I was very happy with that, and precisely because I'd been expecting something like this. I know a lot of people. I think a lot of people were expecting us to get blown out, and that's the thing, though. I think at the end of the day, our defense did perform to a pretty good level against this team. Like we didn't.
I mean, they did
We didn't
better than
allow like
Miami
huge
did,
plays against
so
them.
they did better than Miami, who allowed 5 touchdowns to Tom Brady the next week.
So that's the thing. Yeah, we had some pretty good. We had some pretty good third down coverage. I don't remember. I actually took notes at the time, but it's been a week, so I'd have to revisit them because I did take notes on them. But there were some critical drives for us where, there were some like critical drives for us where we did get some like good stops. And I think at the end of the day, like entering the game, there were just very low expectations. Then again, it always sucks. Like when no matter how bad the stakes are initially, if you have a chance to win the game, it always sucks if you don't. It doesn't matter if you were severe underdogs or not.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It's like
that's why the Browns were like so
right
devastated when they lost against the Chiefs in the postseason last
even
year.
Like it's like the Red Sox too right now, right? I mean, they're underdogs like the whole playoffs, and they beat Tampa.
They're underdogs, but once you're in a chance to win, you want to win. It doesn't matter.
So no one, we weren't supposed to be in it isn't really like a consolation at that point. Like we weren't supposed to be in this thing to begin with. At that point,
at that point, it doesn't matter because you've clearly shown it. Now you have to do the next step.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I didn't. I was obviously very disappointed when Nick Folk's kick missed. He's been very good for us this season. He was recently awarded AFC
on 4th and
special
3.
teams.
Probably should have gone for it on 4th and 3, right?
I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, Nick Folk was a really good kicker for us. It was 56 yards on a rainy day. And when I was reading later, it was pretty much maybe a 4 or 5% probability just to like difference on making a 4th down versus Folk converting the field goal according to some metrics. And that's just like inherently kind of, there's variance, right? So like, I'll live with it. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's all hindsight 2020. If that goes in, then we're not having this conversation. And then if Mac Jones comes out with
a 4th down, there was still like a minute left, right? I mean, there's still a minute left in that game. So I mean, Brady.
There's a minute left, and we had one time, no timeouts.
Well, even if Folk made that kick, Brady would still have gotten the ball back with like a minute left in the game. Just needing.
I mean, if he had made that kick, they would have gotten it. But it's hard to tell. Like it's I mean, and I was reading this afterward. Like this was just based on some like computer modeling, which obviously I was just going to take their word for it. They were basically saying it was a mildly better decision to have Mac Jones on 4th down, 4th and 3, with that amount of time left. But I could live with it. It's one of those things where I could have seen it going either way. It didn't work in that specific path, but I can't blame him for trying it.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I think either of those could have worked.
I mean, yeah, no, I guess I was impressed by the effort. Like, I mean, this is the Super Bowl champions you're facing off against, and I mean, you lost to them by 2 points when. Yeah, I mean, it was an impressive performance. You held Tom Brady to no touchdowns, which, I mean, this season, like, he's on a tear, like 17 touchdowns now on the season in 6 games. And the reason is 17.
Including a pretty nice handful against Philadelphia on Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, he threw 5 against the Dolphins the next week and 2 against the Eagles, as you said, on Thursday night. So, yeah, I mean, so far, I mean, I guess, like, I mean, I've been happy with Mac Jones. But, yeah, like, I thought he was pretty good that game. Like I thought he definitely impressed me. He threw 2 touchdowns. I mean, it was his first multi-touchdown game. Like, and then this past week against the Texans, even though I am critical, he had his first game-winning drive. So hopefully that boosts his confidence going forward. But I mean, let's talk about the Cowboys now a little bit. This is going to be a tough matchup. Like, I mean, 4-1 on the season. Their 1 loss is against the Buccaneers week 1, and that came down to a field goal late in the game too by Ryan Suckup of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So, I mean, Dallas, obviously, Dak Prescott back from that gruesome injury a year ago, 5 games this season. He's thrown 13 touchdowns and 3 interceptions and for 1,368 yards. Ezekiel Elliott, of course, your guy on fantasy, right? 85 carries for 452 yards, 5 touchdowns. He is a beast. This is going to be the best running back the Patriots face probably all season.
One of the top 4 running backs in the league based on form at the moment.
Well, I mean, and maybe, I mean, maybe if Christian McCaffrey, I don't even know if he's going to be available now for that.
If he's out, then
matchup.
yeah. I mean, Zeke's
So,
pretty much in the top 3 currently active.
Yeah, I mean,
And
Alvin
Dalvin Cook's,
Kamara,
and he's actually healthy. That's the other thing. I just want to. I know this isn't directly related, but you have guys like McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook who are like absolutely studs when they play, but then Zeke plays every game. He doesn't. He's
good.
Fitness is phenomenal, especially this season.
Yeah, he's been valuable. I mean, obviously, I think he's a terrific player, and then we don't have to go into the receivers are just incredible. CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Dalton Schultz, the tight end, he's emerged again. Tony Pollard is the backup running back. He's still a really good player. I mean, they have studs at receiver, tight end, and I mean, this is also mentioning that Michael Gallup, another stud wide receiver, is on injured reserve right now. So the Cowboys offense is absolutely loaded. They have a terrific offensive line. Zach Martin, right guard, Connor Williams, left guard, Tyron Smith on left tackle, absolute studs. Offensive line and defense. I mean, their defense is kind of questionable from time to time, but Trayvon Diggs, his brother, the brother of Stephon Diggs of the Buffalo Bills.
Right. He's, of course, their most well-known player. I mean, the Cowboys defense has been quite competent this season.
Yeah, and I mean, Trayvon Diggs, he's a rookie. He has 6 interceptions in 5 games. He is in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. Just 5 games into his NFL career. That is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, they have like a crazy good team this year. Like, it is really good. Like Micah Parsons, Leighton Vander Esch, Randy Gregory. Like, I was listening like on Felger and Maz this week, the radio show, and they brought up an interesting point. If you were like, I mean, usually like this is probably more of a basketball concept where like when you're comparing rosters, you say like, okay, if you're playing like a pickup game and you have to pick between the rosters, like how that kind of dictates the strength of the team, right? So for the Cowboys and Patriots, if you line up the rosters and you're like, okay, I want to build a roster from these 2 teams, they were pretty much saying 9 of the top 10 players belong to the Cowboys. And then, like, for me, it's hard to argue, right? Like Dak Prescott, I mean, I have to go with him. Ezekiel Elliott, of course. Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb. Dalton Schultz, maybe that's like kind of a mix with I could say maybe Hunter Henry and Dalton Schultz are kind of even. So I'll give the Patriots the edge there if it's even. But then defensively, I mean, really besides Matthew Judon, who's been awesome, he's been terrific for the Patriots. I mean, 6.5 sacks on the year. I mean, like Trayvon Diggs, he's better than J.C. Jackson. Randy Gregory.
No, I mean, they're the stronger team on paper and stronger team in terms of their season performance.
And I also want to say this, like Mike McCarthy might be criticized. Like, I mean, Mike McCarthy might get a lot of criticism. I mean, especially from his time with the Packers. Like, people might say that they kind of underachieved with just winning 1 Super Bowl. But I'll just mention that he at least won a Super Bowl, whereas a lot of coaches, like the guy before him, Jason Garrett, I thought was kind of overrated as a coach. Like, I never thought he was like a great coach. So I think McCarthy is a solid coach. Like, I don't think he's like a top coach, obviously, but I think he's good enough. Like, I put him and like Bruce Arians, like both as like Super Bowl like winning coaches who like are solid at what they do. But I don't think like Mike McCarthy will like cost. I don't know. Like, I don't think it's enough of a difference between him and Bill Belichick that would be the difference in the game. Dan Quinn's an interesting one, the defensive coordinator. He was the Falcons head coach during that 2016 season when the Falcons made it to the Super Bowl. And we all kind of saw what happened to the Falcons defense in that Super Bowl. So like, that's an interesting one for me to look at. That might be something the Patriots could exploit a little bit because I am sort of skeptical on Dan Quinn. I think McCarthy is okay enough, but I guess like if coaching, but if you like, basically the point they were making is for the radio show, and I agree with this, is this might be the type of game where we really see how far coaching takes you, because the Cowboys roster is better than the Patriots roster. I mean, but Belichick is a better coach than McCarthy. Like, I will give him that. When the Patriots coaching it's going to come down to coaching if the Patriots are to win this game, because Dallas's offense is capable of probably putting up 40 points like they did against the New York Giants last week. They're capable of going for 40 points like Tampa. You're going to once again have to scheme against this team the way you did against Tampa. And like, I guess like, I just want to ask you now, like, what are your keys to this game? Because I don't know, like the secondary is kind of like, it's okay. Like, it's been good so far, but like, it's still sort of questionable. And now we know for good, Stephon Gilmore will never play another game for the Patriots because he's now with the Carolina Panthers after being traded there. So It's now J.C. Jackson, Jalen Mills, who've done okay. But how confident are you that they can kind of neutralize Amari Cooper, Dalton Schultz, and CeeDee Lamb on Sunday? Like, how confident are you about that?
I don't know. That's hard. but it's one of those things. On paper, it's going to be in favor of the Cowboys. And again, it does depend on our formation, our ability to do the coverage. I thought we had, again, this is going back to the Buccaneers. I thought we did a pretty good job of like Mike Evans did, of course, get like a lot of kind of shallow plays against us throughout the game, but I think we were able to limit their damage. And when you compare the Buccaneers like set of receiving core to the Cowboys, I wouldn't say it's too different. I mean, maybe like Dalton Schultz, Cameron Brate, but I'm kind of just picking at this point.
I guess
I mean Gronk wasn't playing, but like if he had been, of course, it would be very different. But like, so I think it comes down to the individual like battles, and I think what the Houston showed us is that any given week, like any given week, you can have your battles go well or not. Devin McCourty had an off game, and we got exposed for a really big run. So it really has to. The way I see it, that's kind of like what we have to hope for. Like we have to hope that our coverage is able to again limit them to kind of more shallow 8-yard, 7-yard plays. In terms of their running game, we haven't really been a phenomenal running defense. I think we've been pretty average, but again, yeah, we're coming up against, like I said, in this moment, currently a top three running back, in my opinion, in the league, Ezekiel Elliott. I'm not really worried about the whole having Zeke and Pollard, because as far as I'm concerned, if they had a choice, they would. I mean, either of them can hurt you, of course. Like I'd be way like 10 times more worried when you see Ezekiel Elliott, particularly in the red zone, because he had 2 touchdowns, for example, the last game, and as you mentioned, multiple 100-yard games. But I'm looking at their defense, which is interesting because you mentioned Trayvon Diggs. They also have Micah Parsons, who's also having a really phenomenal season. He's also a rookie. Yeah, they must whoever did drafting should get a promotion for them, because Micah Parsons has been one of the league leaders, I believe, in QB hits, for example.
Diggs leads the league in interceptions.
Yeah, which is considering our offensive line status, that's not a favorable matchup for us at all. But again, I'm hoping that we kind of take a lot of the positives from the Buccaneers game. That where Mac Jones dealt very well with the fact that his offensive line wasn't really protecting him. And, like I mentioned, we can't really change that fact. And I think Mac Jones, what we need to see is like, okay, that's an excuse, but how is Mac Jones going to deal with that? How is he going to be in motion? How is he going to be in the speed at which he throws the ball? Which I remember they did a comparison between him and Tom Brady. It was actually quite similar. They were both within, I believe, 0.3 seconds of like from their throwing motion to actually releasing the ball. And that's actually one of the lower things in the league. In his first 5 games, I believe as a rookie, outside of Joe Burrow, he has the most completions. It's either most completions or most passing yards.
He's done a good job so far. So like, I'm not as worried about Mac Jones, but my concern is tomorrow. Like, I'm not sure if like you can hold Dallas to 19 points the way they did against Tampa. So my thing is going to be like you might have to like keep up with Tampa's like Dallas's offense. Like this
it's going to be I don't think we can count on our. Yeah. We shouldn't count on our defense against that offense. We have to do what we can to limit their plays to more shallow runs and to more kind of shallow gains. And if on a given day we're able to stop Zeke, then he's just really good. So it really depends on the day. But we have to be good against them. We have to take advantage of. Well, Trayvon Diggs is there, but we have multiple options. Like I mentioned, we have Jacoby Myers as a really good. He's basically Mac Jones' safety blanket, right? He plays 90% of snaps. He's constantly in that kind of shallow region, 7-8 yards out center for a pretty easy completion.
He still hasn't scored a touchdown.
He hasn't scored a touchdown. He almost did against Houston, just 2 yards out. That would have been very nice. But I think you can imagine it coming. But the good thing is he doesn't. Again, the reason why that works is because you have multiple receivers who can pass the ball, right? Last season, right? Like, Jacoby Myers has always kind of been catching the ball in the kind of central area. That's kind of what he does, whether it's a little deeper, like 20-yard plus or not. So yeah, like I think we have ways around like Trayvon Diggs. Like, we played. I don't even remember. Was it Xavier Howard on the Dolphins?
Dolphins. Yep, Xavier Howard.
Yeah, so we played against him, and I don't think, like when teams have an all-star cornerback, that's, in my opinion, it's only really relevant when you have one stud receiver and then like a bunch of decent guys, and we don't really have that problem because we don't necessarily have any studs. We have a bunch of pretty good people. So like, you have Trayvon Diggs. Okay, just don't throw it in his direction.
So which wide receiver tomorrow do you predict is going to have the biggest game?
I mean, in yards, I think we'll see Hunter Henry again get I know he's not a wide receiver, but I'm counting him in that. I think he's going to get another touchdown at least. I think Bourne has definitely been above Aguilar in the pecking order for receptions, especially like out wide. I think it's going to be either him or Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers is like clearly, in my opinion, has like the best like kind of he's Mac Jones' safety blanket, as far as I see it. So it could be either of them on the day. Like Mac Jones, I think Jacoby will just get a lot of targets for kind of like 7-8 yards. Then maybe Kendrick Bourne will be more like 20-yard, kind of off the side or something like that. It just kind of depends on what the coverage is. Is Trayvon Diggs who's gonna match up with Trayvon Diggs? And whoever it is, maybe just just like he picked on Richard Sherman the last game, just don't throw in his direction if that's a worry.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree with that. I think it's just going to come down to like, for me, it's like a couple things. So like, I think the Patriots are going to need to be consistent and like in the offense, and they're also going to have to be like aggressive, but also smart when it comes to fourth down. So I think like, just like, I don't know, like if it's like 4th and 1 and you're at their like 3-yard line, go for it. I would say like worst case, you give them the ball at their 2-yard line or 3-yard line. Like I think they need to be a little bit more aggressive this time. Like you can't keep kicking field goals and like expecting stuff. Like that's basically like what's been going on. That's why Nick Folk has been so valuable right now, because they're not able to finish the job. They need to be able to finish the job more consistently to be like a really good offense. And this isn't just like a Dallas. This is just, if they really want to be like a real like playoff team, and maybe this isn't the year, but like I want to start seeing that like going forward more, because that would actually show me that they're like really making improvements. And I guess the other thing I mentioned this earlier, the turnover differential. So the Cowboys are actually second in the NFL with a +7 turnover differential. They're 4-1. The Patriots
that's what happens when you get 10 interceptions.
-3. Yeah, they're on -3. The Patriots are -3 turnover differentials. That means they've actually lost 3 more turnovers than they've made. And like, you can't fumble the goal line again. Like that, it's like, if that happens again, like I don't even know what to say. Like at this point, I mean, I would say like they deserve to be a 2-3 team, because if you tell me that you're turning over the ball like 2 times every game, essentially, except for the Jets game, every game you're turning it over at least 2 times, like you deserve to be like losing those games, because good teams like limit their turnovers. Obviously they do happen, I know that, but like you have to like, I'd like to see a turnover-free game tomorrow. No interceptions, no fumbles, and really, like, I don't know, if they can do that, then at least like I can say that that's a good step in the right direction, because Dallas is a pretty like good team. They're like, since they're such a good offense and their defense is pretty good, it's really easy to kind of like, since like anytime you're in a situation where like you're kind of like playing from behind, or you need to kind of play to keep up with the score, you're more likely to make mistakes then, because they're going to be more aggressive. So against Dallas, if they can get out of this game without any turnovers, I would consider that a massive success as well.
No, it would. Yeah. I mean, turnovers it's hard. I mean, yeah, because at the end of the day, like it's kind of like, I feel like it must come down to some, I mean, there are a few cases where you just get incredibly unlucky, but like when you have the ball punched out from under your arm or that kind of thing, I mean, running backs essentially get contact every play they're involved in, right? At the end of the day, if you don't score a touchdown, someone's going to like bring you down. That's how it works. So it is interesting, like why, like, for like so much of the game, it's great. And then once you get to the red zone, it pops out. So like, I don't really know what the solution to that is either. I mean,
yeah, and I'm like Ramondre Stevenson, who like got another chance this past game. Like apparently they were saying that he was so scared about potentially losing the ball. That's why he was kind of like playing timid this past game, because like one fumble and like in week 1, and he didn't see the field for the next 4 games until this past week.
Yeah, so it's yeah, I don't know. We're probably gonna see more of Ramondre Stevenson this coming week.
And they should. Well, like I think he's still good, and like I feel it's kind of unfair that like he missed 4 games. Like just for reference, Kareem Hunt, his first career NFL game back in 2017 against the Patriots, first play he like fumbled, and then he had, I forgot what the statistics were like at the end, but he had like 100 yards, I think 2 touchdowns. I forget what the stats were.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I remember his first game against us, and we all saw what he did.
Yeah, so like
I mean,
that's why I'm
that's
just
how it
saying like
goes.
first
Like,
career game. Like I mean, benching him for the next 4 games. I don't know if that's like the best way to teach, but look, I mean, at this point, Belichick, like I mean, it's like he's sort of like kind of grasping at like trying to like stay like in the race. And when I say that, I'm not just talking in the context of like the race for like the playoffs, but also like between him and Tom Brady because Brady's won a Super Bowl without him, and Brady actually, I just saw the statistic, has just won his 20th game with the Buccaneers. Belichick is still at 9 wins without Brady. So Brady basically
yeah, I mean,
20 wins with the Buccaneers before Belichick reached 10, which is that's an
it's
interesting
also like
thing.
I don't know. It's kind of like apples to oranges. Like I don't know. I mean, it wasn't an easy path for Tom Brady. Like they started off like a lot slower last season, if you remember. It's
Yeah,
hard
yeah.
to remember now because they won, but like it's I think it's apples to oranges. Like maybe inside there's some competition and stuff, but like I think he's just trying to like steady the ship, kind of. And again, like I think he's also trying to figure out what kind of team this is. Like I think everyone's collectively like very disillusioned about this offensive line that was supposed to be so amazing in preseason at the start of the season.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see it, and we have to take advantage of our matchups. Like all said and done, the Cowboys like they've actually, I mean, they allow the second highest yard total in the league actually in defense.
Yeah, but that's
versus
like
the
also because
Buccaneers.
of like coming from behind, right? But like I would
So they come
attribute
from,
that to
but
like
we have
the
to
Giants, right? Like
advantage of those.
Kadarius Tony had 10 catches for 189 yards, the rookie wide receiver for the New York Giants. I mean, how much of that came when the game was sort of out of hand already? Like they
I mean, that's like what the stats are, but like you can look at other things. They're like pretty middle to like lower end in terms of how many touchdowns they give. They have 10 touchdowns allowed, which is, I mean, the highest is 15, but they're like in the upper half in terms of that number. So I think there's like a few, like any defense, it has really strong parts, and it also has parts that you can exploit, I guess. Like, so I think at the end of the day, you just have to kind of like put some trust in the offense and think, how well will they make this work? Like, and again, I'm like not really that big of like, oh, they have this huge, great cornerback. That's gonna be a big problem for us. I don't think, if you're very one dimensional, that one cornerback's enough to like nullify a big part of it. I think that's, where we don't have that problem. So
yeah, no, I mean I agree. So I guess what's your score prediction for tomorrow? I mean, I think have you picked the Patriots in every game this season?
I have. I mean, it's good karma. So
what's your record? What's the prediction for tomorrow?
maybe I'll say it's okay, I'll say 28-27.
Who?
So I'll say 28-27. I guess I'll go with the Cowboys. So I think Zeke will have 2 touchdowns, and I think they'll have 2 throwing touchdowns, and then I think the Patriots will have 3 touchdowns, one with Hunter Henry, and a pair of field goals.
Okay, not like 4 touchdowns and a missed extra point at the end, because that would be a brutal way.
No, that would be too bad. I mean, honestly, if you think about it, Houston Texans, like they had lost some pretty costly kicks. Actually, probably would have won them the game.
Yeah, exactly. Us. I mean, Fairbairn.
So,
that was actually another thing I wanted to mention. Like he missed 2 extra points. The Texans kicker missed Fairbairn. He missed 2 extra points, and he also missed a field goal. That's 5 points.
So that's 5 points on it. So at least we didn't. At least we lost on a Nick Folk kick against the Buccaneers, but that was 56 yards in rainy weather versus like 2 pad attempts. Like there's really there's a difference. So I think that's maybe I'll go with. But okay, I think again, I don't think we're gonna get like blown out of the water.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I'm going with Cowboys 24-20. So I hope I'm wrong, but I mean, until like I sort of like see like I mean they're not like the Patriots no longer the team that deserve the benefit of the doubt. And like rightfully so. Like I mean, with Brady, you can say like okay, like the Cowboys have these strengths, but we have Tom Brady. That was always sort of like the Patriots kind of thing. Like that's how they sort of operated. Like Tom Brady was that great that he kind of like encapsulated he masked a lot of the weaknesses of any roster, like because he was like so good. Like you don't have that like anymore. So like I can't give them the benefit of the doubt. Like if Tom Brady was still here, I would be like, okay, yeah, Patriots probably win this game. Like, but I'm gonna go with Cowboys 24-20. But Mac has been impressing me, so I'm gonna keep on looking for that this season. Maybe that's how maybe that's how we're gonna have to get by the season, like sort of looking at the positives from Mac Jones, because like I don't know,
Yeah,
I'm not
that's
sure how
also
many
on
games.
that, and also still figuring out like what this team is. I think it's helpful to know that, right, and kind of calibrate accordingly, like what we think we're going to achieve, and make some ideas on how to improve. So
Yep, definitely. Okay, but yeah, that's anyways our show for this week. Hopefully the Patriots prove both of us wrong, but it's been tough so far. But yeah, we'll be back next week to recap this game and also preview their next game against the New York Jets. Hopefully that should be an easier matchup. I mean, especially after what we saw in week 2, Zach Wilson, another 4 interception performance, hopefully against the Patriots. But yeah, we'll be back
Absolutely.
next week. Stay. Hopefully enjoy the game tomorrow. Enjoy the whole football week, and we'll be back next Saturday to preview the Jets and recap the Cowboys game. Until then, have a good one, guys. Bye.